Once upon a time, in a faraway land in the north of Italy, there was a castle, and in this castle lived a wise woman named Marina. Marina had 3 daughters, Olivia, Sophia, and Thea. The women turned the castle into an organic farm, growing wheat, corn, spelt, fruit, and nuts, and although the daughters went off to explore other parts of the world, they would always come back to the castle where life was slower and it was so much easier to listen to nature and her wisdom. With a castle so beautiful, many would have turned it into a luxury hotel. Others might have despaired at how difficult it was to maintain and have sold long ago. But this family dreamed that it could become a place to host cultural, agricultural, and charitable events, namely camps to empower children and adults dealing with chronic illness. As a friend of the sisters, I'd often heard them talk about how much fun these camps were. Music, dancing, games, adventures in the forest, total freedom to be silly and creative and childlike without judgment. Whether healthy or sick, young or old, play is something which studies are now finding is crucial to our well-being psychologically and physically, but somehow most of us have forgotten how. Last summer they invited me to volunteer at one of these camps, knowing that I love anything where human connection and joy is the goal. Camp Ray of Hope was bringing children and teenagers with haemophilia and cancer out from Romania for a camp where the objective every day was to create as much fun as possible. And from building rockets to elaborate games dressed up as superheroes, to archery, painting, cooking, and magic shows, gradually the volunteers, the kids, the teenagers, the doctors, we all fell under the spell and became bonded in a way that is hard for me to explain. But I shall try. Your name is Elisa?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Pentru că este foarte vechi.
Cosa sta dicendo? Aiuto!
Very old.
Our conversation was translated from Romanian to Italian by this guy, a charming kid who spent 2 years in a hospital in Rome and learned to speak Italian better than many expats I've known who have lived in Italy for years.
And I like you.
Ah, you're so cute. I like you too. Who inspired you? Who was your
Life.
model? Life.
Pain
Pain.
and the problem. Because in my past and my time when I was child, I was many difficult things. I suffer very much. Sometimes I cross very close to the die because I don't have treatment for my sick. And I see, okay, I cross very close to the die, but then I'm die. I'm alive.
Yeah.
Why I have to be sad? I have to be proud. I have to be optimistic. I have to be happy.
Yes.
Because many people, she cross and die.
Yeah.
But then I'm dying.
Yeah.
So I can keep going in my life. I can rise up. And now I rise up. I'm a big guy.
Yeah, with a big heart, with a big heart. It's, I feel it,
My form of my heart, she's made by the pain or for the suffer. Because the suffer, she can make any heart to look nicely or bad. It's two choice, not more. But you don't have to cry. Don't have to cry, please. I'll hug you. No, you don't have to do that.
Yeah, no. It's, yeah.
You don't have to.
I know you're very inspiring. You're very inspiring.
But Adriana, she showed me different people, a different way, a good way. I don't know how thank you for this.
Adriana is one of the founders of Ray of Hope, and speaking with her husband Tom, he tells me how she has spent years fighting with the government, with doctors, sometimes with the parents themselves, to ensure a future for these children.
Where does this idea even come from? Like, how do you wake up one morning and decide to help all these kids that you're not related to? You don't have children with this disease of your own. I mean,
well, the biggest, well, Faith. I have to tell you, faith plays a big part in it, because Adriana, when, you know, she had sworn never to come back to Romania. You know, she grew up under the communists, and it was this one boy, the first case where somebody called and they needed this medicine, so she's, I can try to get the medicine. And then, of course, the doctor said, I have a waiting list of people who need medicine. And, well, hundreds. We did supply the first medicine for a pacemaker, the first medicine for a knee transplant, the first medicine for hip transplants. For a long time, we were a much bigger supplier of factor to Romania than the government. We were the only camp, and still the only camp for hemophilia. Nobody wants to touch it.
Wow. It's too bad.
Because one, you need to have, for sure, you have to have competent medical treatment available, and you have to have the medicine. And this medicine is, when we, a typical camp, when we came, we require probably somewhere between, depending on the severity of the kids, somewhere between $300,000 and $400,000 worth of medicine for 1 week.
For 1 week?
For 1 week.
Oh my goodness.
We'll deal with almost anybody. Adriana will. I'm just, I'm the guy in the shadow in the back. I told you my favorite song for Adriana, and she knows that, is I told her, you are the wind beneath my wings, because she gives me the inspiration to do it. I'm Irish.
Yeah.
I'm not Romanian. People say, what are you doing in Romania? Yeah. I'm here to help my wife. That's it, you know. Yeah, she's a beautiful person with a big heart. And she said, that's what we need to do, because the kids don't have it. And everybody says, like the question you asked before, why do you do it? You don't have any kids that are sick. I said, that's because we're grateful. We have these kids. We've not had to go through that struggle. Somebody has to help them. Somebody has to help them. And we've been, you know, gifted enough. Yeah, we're not rich, we're not poor, but you know, we were gifted enough that we could do something. In the hemophilia community, a lot of the boys have no fathers, because the disease is transmitted from the mother to the boy.
Right.
And as soon as a doctor tells them, well, this is, you know, you gave it to your son, you gave my son this disease, I have this son, this thing. Most of the fathers desert the family because they don't want the financial responsibility of it, you know, and or they drink. Either way, it's not good. But we have a lot of the boys have no fathers. Yeah. Some of the boys that we had here are raised by their grandparents, because both parents, you know, the husband has said, well, I'm, you know, or they put them in an orphanage. That's how we get kids that have hemophilia from the orphanages. Well, hemophilia is, you know, one of the proteins that you need for your blood to clot doesn't exist. Right. Some people are hemophilic, but they need factor 9. Yeah. Some need factor 8. If that's missing and they bleed, and the bleeding isn't because they cut themselves. Yeah. They can sit in this chair and, you know, just because they lean back like that, yeah, if they're severe, bleed. Right. And if they don't get that injection of the medicine, yeah, the bleeding can cause atrophy, it can cause joint failure, and it is extremely painful. Right. Extremely painful.
Yeah. Everybody know how feel the pain, the real pain.
Yeah.
I speak with my colleague last night, tried to make an injection 35 times, wow, and don't make it.
Wow.
It's very painful for a man, for a child.
Yes.
To feel it that.
Of course.
Imaginable.
I can't imagine it.
Our biggest joy is seeing, right now we have 5 of our campers, former campers, whatever, in medical school. We have more applying for medical school. We have several engineers, we have attorneys. And if you realize that when we started, if you had hemophilia, we started with hemophilia. If you had hemophilia, your self-esteem and confidence was nowhere. They didn't have medicine. If they had bleeds, they got deformed legs, deformed arms. I was a young boy who, at 12 years old, had never gone to school. Adriana forced his parents. They got more money for him being a handicapped kid than they did if he was in school and just sick. So they graduated high school. He caught up and graduated from high school. He's now gainfully employed.
The camp is set up so that there is a group of older teenagers who have been coming to camps for years, who have earned a place as camp leaders. The importance of this cannot be overstated. It's not only beneficial to have an authority figure who can empathize with the kids because they too have hemophilia or cancer. It is crucial to give the younger kids an example, proof that they can have a future, they can go to university, they can live a normal life. Alex is one of these leaders and has been coming to camp since he was 14.
You look now at the younger kids and you think, I remember how I felt the first time.
Yes,
no?
I see it, one little child. She told me sometime, Alex, I like to be like you.
Oh, this is so beautiful.
In that moment, I'm feeling like God put his hand off my head.
Oh.
I'm feeling like a father. And this is amazing. This is
yeah, it gives you goosebumps, yes.
Yeah.
I know.
My heart, she was total big. She blow.
Your heart explode, yeah. What did you say?
I say nothing. My first reaction, I meet it. I crossed him in my arm.
You hugged him?
Yeah, I hugged him.
Wow.
Very long time. This is enough for me. I don't need more.
It's wonderful because you give a gift to them.
Because somebody give it to me a gift.
Yes.
The question came up, what would you say if you met God right now? All right, and this kid said, I'd ask him if there's some way that my mother and father don't have to go to the garbage dump to find food. And you went, whoa. But it was matter of fact.
All of them have this emotional maturity.
They have to. The boy we had, who's the worst case in the world,
Yeah.
but he's very spiritual. They asked him, they said, well, do you ever get mad at God? And he says, why? God knows what he's doing. Okay, that's, it doesn't sound so deep, but you think about it. Here's a kid with no legs, life expectancy for him. He's 27 now. If he made 37, I'd be really surprised. All of his bones have holes in them like Swiss cheese from this reaction to the drugs and things. And yet, he's prepared. They're not as afraid, But, to see a kid 5 years old infusing himself. And we've had them at camp 5, 6 years old, and they'll stick a needle in and take their medicine. So that to me is courage that I don't know, I'm not thinking if I was 5 I'm going to be sitting there. But they know that they have to do that to live a normal life, and they accept it.
He is very good. He learned Italian in 2 years, no? It's fantastic.
I had my last memory before operation surgery, and I don't know speak Romanian after, but
in time? Yeah, slowly.
My mom remembered all the words, and English is not.
It doesn't come to no. So in these days, in questi giorni, okay, we talk in English, and maybe more and more words come to you. Yes.
I want.
Yes. Okay.
So many of you write to me asking how to learn Italian, how to learn a foreign language, and lamenting how difficult it is. And indeed, it was for me too. But can you imagine having an operation and losing part of your memory? I mean, this girl, she was struggling not just with English, but also with her own mother tongue of Romanian.
To learn a language, you just need time and the words around you, and they go this way, and then they go into you, and one day you wake up and you say, yes, I understand, no? Yes. So you just be patient, slowly, piano, and then...
I have time.
Yes, exactly.
And I like you. Aș vrea ca să fie cea mai bună prietenă. Ar fi o prietenă bună. It's like the best friend.
Oh, you're so sweet. We talk tonight. We sit together.
Yes.
And we have dinner.
Yes.
And we talk. No?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I look forward to it.
When we have a camp, no doctor is allowed to be called doctor. No doctor is allowed to wear a white coat.
Wow.
They have to be one of the campers. This is Adriana's concept. She says, I want the kids to see doctors as people, and I want the doctors to see kids as kids.
Amazing.
And I think that's why we have so many of our kids wanting to be doctors.
Yeah, I noticed that. What is this whole experience like for a doctor?
Well, all the time I thought that in order to get a good response for the treatment, first of all you have to take and to get a soul of the patient, so you have to communicate with it. So I think 90% of the treatment is the relation between the patient and doctor, and after it goes to the other treatment. So all the time I try to get involved as much as possible and see them as my brothers, my sisters, my grandparents, the parents, and try to have as much patience as possible and explain them. And also every time I think how I was when I was a kid, and I used to go in the hospital, and how it was with all the doctors. Oh, you have this, this is the treatment, and you go without explanations about procedures or treatment written on the recipe. So I said I don't want to become a doctor like that. So I have to have the patience for every patient to explain everything. If it takes 10 minutes or 30 or 40 minutes for each patient, I have to do it. So this is what it ended up, like being friends with everybody, and I enjoy it because you find out a lot more things about the disease, about the symptoms which they come for.
Do you think that in a week you can actually make a difference?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have experience in my life with some of my teachers, which in an hour of teaching me something, a new lesson in school, made an impact. And that's why I'm traveling so much today with humanitarian projects, because one teacher said something in like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And I was in the 11th grade.
Wow.
And that changed everything for
What are
the next year. She told me that you have to experience in life. And she was speaking on her person that I decided when I'm going to be like a student that every year I have to see at least one new country. Because that's how you learn about culture and you develop yourself, you get more open-minded and you know how to connect with other people and other cultures. And I said, this is nice and I want to do it also.
Exactly like I say in your presentation.
Yes.
You have to be optimist.
Yes. Welcome, friends. I feel like I know you. It's actually great doing it on the second day because I feel like I know you a little bit now. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story. So I started, I'm thinking, you know, forming this little plan in my head in Australia. And I'm thinking, okay, so there's the challenge. I don't speak the language, can't make money. I've never made a TV show before. I don't have a visa. I don't know anyone in Italy. But I think this is going to work, huh? Yeah. And we spoke for months, and I'm getting more and more excited. You know when you get excited and you think, maybe it won't happen. But I always get excited. I never hold back. I'm always like, no. Because, again, you have to tell your subconscious, I believe in this dream. I believe it, no? I get a call from them, and they said, it was an American. She's like, hi, Kylie. All of a sudden, all this doubt comes, and you think, they're right, I'm not famous. They're right, am I crazy? But when these voices come, sometimes I like to think of the things that people say about you, that this is the reason you can't do that. I think, but what if we flipped it around? What if that thing which you think is the reason I can't do this actually becomes the reason I will be different from everyone else, and my dream, my project will actually stand out, will be unique. I was supposed to come here to give a talk to inspire them, but it's just totally the opposite. I've had better conversations with these teenagers here in the last 24 hours than I have, I don't know, in the last month with people my own age. Or they're really kind and so wise. Last night I led this discussion on bullying. I really wanted to open up the conversation, give them a chance to share and talk about some strategies, because you can imagine bullying is hard enough for most teenagers, but for these guys with their illnesses it's even harder. And we're having conversations over lunch about everything, about creativity and philosophy, and these kids are teenagers, so they've got some amazing ideas and such kindness and such just heart. And thank you for making me always laugh. I learned so much from you. Thank you, guys.
You're the best.
When I ask you what you want to do in 5 years and you say you want to become a better human being, it's like the most beautiful response.
She's amazing.
Goodbye, Romania!
Camp Ray of Hope, run by Adriana and Tom, is just one of many charities that my friends host in the castle.
Summer in Italy, I mean, a lot of our mutual friends are off partying or just like lying on a beach somewhere, and you guys, instead of running around sweating, organizing, staying up till often like 3 a.m. and then getting up again at 6 a.m.
My friend, do you also work for NASA? Come! NASA engineer, you will help.
You have exactly 5 minutes to change into your super identity.
I sometimes think, like, am I 35 and I'm a camp counselor? Is that my life? You know, you're making posters at midnight and you're like, wait a second. But in fact, it only lasts a second, because then you come back out and you're with a group of 50 people who can and can't understand each other's languages, and who are all working towards this incredibly meaningful week of their lives, and it all makes sense. It all makes sense that we're able to use this place to do it, that we're able to work together as a family and to host these groups of people that honestly give us much, much more than we could ever give them. We're the really lucky ones in this equation.
When you're creating this atmosphere, you're trying to empower children to help them get past a really difficult moment in their life, and you're creating this atmosphere that's all about positivity and not judging yourself, not judging others, and accepting each other and being on the same level. And that transfers to everybody. It's not just the kids. I mean, we live it, and it helps us too. You can't teach a person anything. Mm-hmm. You can create an environment in which that person can flourish, can blossom, can choose.
It's like you said, we don't set out to teach anything or to change anyone, but it's also true that we get to the end of a camp session, or what does happen is that people do learn and do transform and do change. The fact that that's a side effect is because that was already there. That was already in there. The environment allowed, your guard to come down and that to emerge.
All of us have a positive part in us, probably. Mm-hmm. I mean, I hope so. Yeah. It doesn't always have an environment in which to express itself. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And if you start the train, then it just keeps going.
It's exhausting. It takes a lot of organization, and you guys all do it with such grace and such joy. How did your mother give you these values?
This place wasn't inhabited when she decided to come live here. It wasn't in very good shape, and she made the choice to come live here and make it her home and make it her work as well.
We've adopted this motto from the film Field of Dreams that is, if you build it, they will come. And she really 100% lives by that. She, when we did the renovation of the farmhouse, for example, we were sort of, as a family, trying to talk through. And at some point we were saying, okay, this is a big investment of time, of money, and everything. What are we gonna do with it? And she was like, there's something good's gonna come of this. If you build it, it's gonna have a purpose. And look, and this farmhouse is the reason why we're able to do camps like this, because it's an indoor space. It allows us to cook for 50 plus people. And so I think she just believed even before she knew what to believe in, and so that's been an incredible lesson for us.
Her idea to live in a way that is in tune with nature, inserted in nature, like together. That's the wider version of living in tune and in sync with your community.
Our dad died when we were 15 of cancer, and that didn't instantly set us off on a path to work with illness, but it did open us up to this first of all, the possibility that death is kind of a part of life, and that illness affects us all at some point, but then also made us aware of what you can do when things like that happen. So our mom in that moment became, everything for us. She stepped up to the plate with so much strength and so much compassion for our situation, so much support in such subtle ways that I'm still realizing now, many 20 years after. And so, in a way, his death put us on this path to doing this work. But it was more like the way that my mom showed up for us in that moment, I think has given us the understanding of what you can do for someone else when someone else is going through a challenge of that kind, an illness or bereavement, grief.
I was in a
Wheelchair?
After the 2 months, I say, enough. I have to raise up. I try, go down, I up again. I go down, I up again. But I don't let the chair stick me back. Like a invisible force.
Yes.
Come.
Yes.
Stay with me. For another people, she don't believe in good things. You can play this game because you have a problem. You can drive or you can go with bicycle.
Yes.
You can dance. No, I can dance.
Yeah.
I want to dance. Let me show you. So this is
Thank you, Tom and Adriana and Camp Ray of Hope. Thank you to the campers. Thank you, Sophie, Ollie, S.T.A.R, and your mother, Marina, for hosting this magical experience at Campo Base. Please subscribe, go visit my Patreon if you'd like to support my work, and if you'd like to learn more about Campo Base and Camp Ray of Hope, visit associazionecampobase.org. Thank you for watching.